Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to take a look at some trading software that you can use in Linux. If you're one of those people that are brave of heart and like to take your money and make it work for you, or you're regularly saying bye-bye to it, whatever the case may be, well, a lot of people that do this probably don't realize that they can do this on Linux. You see a lot of different proprietary stuff out there for Windows and Macintosh and so forth, but Linux is a platform where a lot of things can be used right here. Now, there are a few exceptions, of course, like NinjaTrader and DAS Trader Pro and so forth like that. There are proprietary platforms, and I think Lightspeed 2 is another one that probably would not work on Windows. However, there's a lot of really cool options. And so I'm going to just touch upon a few. I know there are web-based options out there like TradingView, and even Webull is web-based and very wonderful platforms. But I want to focus on some desktop stuff here and just kind of show you some of the possibilities that are available. If you're a Linux user, you don't have to count yourself out. And if you're a Windows user, maybe this will help you take the step if that was maybe one of the things that kept you from coming here. So the first thing I want to take a look at is Metatrader 5. And this is a platform that is used by many exchanges, especially the ones outside the United States. However, that actually doesn't mean that you have to live outside the United States to use it, because it is really something versatile, and it really depends on who you sign up with. Now, the first broker I'm going to take a look at here is FTMO. And FTMO is what they call a prop firm or a proprietary firm. And the cool thing about this is you don't even have to use your own money, pretty much. So if you kind of know what you're doing and know how to manage risk, this is something that is really a nice option, especially if you don't have gazillions of dollars in the bank to trade on your own. So the way this works is you would pay a fee to take a challenge, and there's a couple of stages. And the first stage lasts about a month, I believe. And if you meet the goal and your drawdown isn't too high within a specified amount, then you get to go on to phase 2. And if you get through that phase and you show consistency and manage your risk, then you become a funded trader. And as a funded trader, that means that you can trade $100,000 accounts, $200,000, or $50,000, $10,000, depending on what you want to do. The entry fee corresponds to the amount that the account size that you want to do. So if I were to start the challenge, I would go in here and select my currency, for example, select your risk mode, which I would recommend normal unless you're really good at what you do. And then here you have different things like the account balance you want to start with. So $10,000 is a starting point. And if you were to go with that, then your entry fee would only be $172.97, and that's refunded if you pass the challenge. So how cool is that? And if you don't, then, well, you're out $172. But if you were using your own money and you didn't do well enough to pass, you would have lost a lot more than $172, I'm sure. And so, like I said, you have all these different sizes here. And so it ranges from 10,000 all the way up to 200,000. If you really know what you're doing and you want to be able to trade with $200,000 worth of somebody else's money, well, here you go. And the entry fee on something like that would be $1,200, rounded off there. So to invest $1,200 and then get it back after you pass the challenge to trade $200,000, that is not too shabby. And of course, they do get a cut. And I believe it's a 90-10 cut, so you keep 90% of the profits. So that isn't such a bad deal either. And then, of course, you got different risk mode, normal and aggressive. And so the aggressive, I believe it's showing here a leverage of 1 to 100. And in normal, it's also 1 to 100, but it also includes a swing. And then you have your platforms here. You got Metatrader 4 and 5. Personally, I like 5. There's really no difference between the two, except in Metatrader 4, you would only be able to trade Forex currencies. And with 5, you can trade other securities as well, such as stocks, indexes, currencies, crypto, commodities, all of the good stuff. So you get a lot more choices with 5. So anytime you're going to sign up for like a demo or the real challenge, I would recommend going with 5, unless you really, really don't care about all the other stuff and you only want to stay in Forex, then 4 is just fine. So I already created a demo roughly 7 or 8 days ago. Already downloaded the platform, and so the platform is downloaded right in here. And this is just one of the things I'm going to take a look at. I'm also going to take a look at a couple other brokers and a couple different pieces of software as well. So stay tuned. Okay, and here's what the app looks like after it's installed. And this actually runs on Wine. So even though it's a Windows app technically, and it's also available in Mac, you can run this in Wine. So all you got to do is install Wine and you're good to go, and it runs just beautifully. And so this is what it looks like when it's installed. And as you can see, it's got a nice look to it. Of course, I changed the colors and so forth, and I'll go over that as well. And in fact, when I get to the next broker, I'll even install it so you can see how easy it is to install right in Wine. The only thing you have to do first is install Wine, which is available in your package manager. So have Wine installed, because this is typically a Windows app, but it runs perfectly in Wine. I've never had an issue with it. So what I got here is, this is the chart here, and I kind of modified the template, which I'll show you in a little bit too. But what I like to do is when I first get this on here, I like to flatten it out and then go in here under Common and uncheck the scale fix and recheck it. Or if it's not checked, then check it. Then when I expand it here, now I can freely move the chart around just like this, and so it's a lot more comfortable. And so that's one of the little tricks I do here on this. And so here we got our tabs here. I got some things open right now. Here is our pound, and let me just change my view here. I was in full screen, and I'm clicking this icon here. This allows me to find it. If I can't see the candles, it'll automatically scroll it to the end there. And here's my time frames. So I got my 5 minute here, and that's what it looks here like here on the 5 minute. And then you got like the 15, the 30, the hourly, and even the daily. So if you want to see the daily and try to get an idea of where it may swing to today, then you can take a look at it right here under the daily. And that is kind of cool too, I think. And here I'm just sizing it up a little bit just to give it a little bit of a nicer overview. So here we can change our style. So here we got our bar chart, or we can have a line chart if you're more comfortable with that. And sometimes that's pretty handy if you just kind of want to draw your zones. And then here we got our drawing tool, so I could put a line here if I wanted to, and just maybe get an idea of maybe a good level of support here or resistance up in here. And so I could just kind of line that off if I want, or use a rectangle. I can come down here and maybe draw a zone here, like maybe here, and maybe I'm anticipating that it's going to come back to this zone. So I could just take the rectangle and just kind of expand it like that. And then when it hits that area, I could anticipate that it's likely to bounce. And I can do the same thing up here on the top and just kind of set a resistance zone here, and then maybe change the color because I believe that it would be likely to drop when it gets into that area. So I would just kind of make that red just for my own psychological benefit. And then these here, this will remove the space. So if you turn that off, it'll take the space away. But with it on, you get some breathing room there. And I kind of like having a space there. You can adjust the amount of space with that, and that'll kind of give you breathing room. Now I'm going to right click and go into properties. And here is where you can adjust your colors. Originally, these colors were not the default. I set those before. And again, we'll look at the defaults and all that in a little bit. But here I changed these, and so these denote the outline and the body. And then up here you got your preset schemes that you can use for color schemes as well. But I like to pretty it up. And then here you can even save your templates. So these are some templates that I got saved right here. And so if I want to change my color or my look, I can easily just select one of these templates by default. And I don't know why I saved that. I can't talk and do things at the same time. But anyway, and again, we got our drawing tools and our times and all that. And the 5 minutes is one of my favorites. And here I hit that to get to the end again. And if it's too flat, you can just scroll in the sidebar there and just widen it. And then here we got our US 30 and other currencies here as well, and bring it up. And I'm using a different template for that one. So you got a little different color scheme there. And so we can just store all these different charts on different tabs. This is Tesla here. So I even have the stocks in here available. And so Tesla looks like it's taking a dive there. It really looks like it might have gapped down there overnight. And I'm just going to tweak that scale there a little bit. I just kind of flatten it out and went there and checked and unchecked the scale fix. again, like I did before, and then I can kind of get a better feel there on the chart. And so let's go over to the 5-minute here, and yeah, that's a big gap down. So it looks like last night it gapped down quite a bit, and I believe it's probably in the pre-market right now, and it looks like it's kind of clawing its way back up. So that's kind of fun. And then you can even do currencies through this FTMO, which is really cool. I mean, cryptos. So you can do cryptos here. This is Bitcoin, so you can mess with that if you want. But one of my favorites is the UF30. This is one I really like. And it looks like it's kind of working its way up to the support zone. So if I were going to trade this right now, I would probably be looking at this level right here. And then when it kind of got a little bit deeper into there, I might be inclined to do a sell. And I would probably be looking at this support area here for it to just kind of to bounce back into. If we got a little bit of momentum there, might even, if I wanted to be more conservative, might even be looking for that zone to get out. So that's kind of how I figure things out there. Oh, and just a little disclaimer. I am not qualified to give financial advice, so just know that trading is risky and you can lose a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. I would always recommend, if you're a beginner especially, that you use a demo account or a simulator and never use your real money. There's no sense in flushing it down the toilet before you know what you're doing. And if I could tell my old self that years ago, I would have told me that, because your first objective is to learn how to ride a bike. You got to know how to ride first, and it takes practice. Your first objective should be to learn how to do it and to become consistent. That's what's important, is consistency, not winning or losing. So you gotta focus on learning how to get consistent first, and then later, maybe even a couple years later, start focusing on, okay, let's figure out how to make a profit now. So it does take time. It's like getting a college degree. If you're going to be a doctor, you can't start doing brain surgery in your first week of school. You got to go through the whole degree thing first. Or flying a plane, it's not something you can do like tomorrow. So it does take time, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great journey. And most people give up, but I'm allergic to that. That's why I stuck to it. So I'm just going to redraw these. I don't know why I accidentally deleted them there. Okay, that's better. My OCD is happy now. And if you want to change the color on these, you can right click, go to properties, and you right click over the little dot in the center there. And then you can change your color right here. But I want to change it on the bottom one actually, because this is where I want to anticipate it that it'll bounce. So I made my bottom one green. I'm going to leave the top one red because I'm anticipating it's going to drop when it gets there. Cool. So let's just drop into my back end here, because just kind of want to show you what the back end looks like, because here is where you can kind of keep track of your metrics and so forth. So like I said, I started on the 17th and today is the 25th of April. And so far I'm doing pretty good. And if you go back track here into your main place, this is where you take the real challenge. I'm just in the free trial, and you can do a demo for 14 days. And then after 14 days, if you don't feel ready yet, you can just start it over again and take another free trial. And you can just keep trying for free for as long as you want until you feel brave enough to do the challenge. So how cool is that? I like that. So here's my challenge. And I did great the first time, but I wanted to do it again. So clicking metrics will take you into the back end here. And this will kind of show you how you're doing. And mine ends on the 30th. There's where you can download the Metatrader 5 platform. And then here's kind of a graph to show you your progress. So if you're doing good, you'll go uphill. And if you're doing not so good, you'll sink below zero. And this is a $50,000 demo, which is cool. So you get 50K to play with. And then you have what's called a max loss and a max daily loss. So when you go into drawdown, if you get into a trade and you're going the wrong direction and it starts going negative on you, you don't want to go any more than what's showing here, which your max daily loss is 2,500 and your max all-time loss shouldn't be more than 5,000. So that's important. And so far, I've passed all the steps because I've been in it more than 5 days. And the only thing I got to do now is hit this $2,500 target. That's the target we got to hit. And so far, I've accumulated about 1,500. And these are the different days. My average profit here is showing $50, zero loss because I haven't lost a trade yet. Nice. And I've done about 30, it looks like. Traded 60 lots and I have a 100% win rate. Wow. Can I keep that up? I don't know. So these are all the different days that I made profit, and these are kind of the profit totals for each day, it looks like. And then here is our journal, and this is a list of all the trades that I've done since I started the trial here. And so I've gone all the way down, and so far I got a clean record. And then page 2, this goes back in time to the 19th and the 17th, because I started on the 17th. So that's my first trade I did with a $77 profit. And then I kind of got through that week without getting beat up. And then this is my second week and still haven't gotten beat up. So I'm happy about that. All green. That's my favorite color. So yes, this is your back end. So you can even export it into an CSV or an Excel file. So if you hit that, it'll just kind of download a file, and then you can open it up in your Office program and then kind of see your stats in a spreadsheet. So that's kind of cool. That's actually the first time I looked at that. So I kind of like that. It looks like it's really well organized, and you can kind of see all your columns here. And if you're doing poorly, you could probably maybe get an idea of maybe if there's a pattern, what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right. And then this consistency score, I'm not really sure what that is, but I have a 100% win rate, but it's showing 67. So it may have something to do with drawdown in between your trades. I don't know. And then this is economic calendar. So you can look here and trying to see when events are happening, so you can stay out or write them if you're brave. So it looks like we got a few events there going on as well. And so, yes, that's the back end. And then you got all this stuff here that you can kind of do. And I haven't really gone into any of this actually yet or explored much. This is the dark mode. So I think I like that. I might just stay in there. Dark mode is cool. And then we have our margin calculator and a lot of cool little utilities there. So I guess you could calculate your margin if you wanted to kind of figure out what that was. And you would just match your account type here. And I believe I'm in a standard. And then you would just kind of put your equity in there to match your account. This one is like a $70,000 by default, but I would change that to a $50,000 since that's what my demo says. Here you can select any symbol here that's all available. And so if I wanted to do like the pound dollar pair there, I could look at the price and just kind of calculate it. So that would be one lot size. And so that would calculate and tell me that your margin would be around $1,200. So one lot size, I think, means that you would have $1,200 invested. And so you would need a minimum margin of $1,243 there to trade that at one lot. So that's kind of cool. And with $70,000, it's shown that you could trade up to 56 lots all at once if you were insane. So that's pretty handy. And I haven't really messed with that too much, so I'm not really quite sure I would use that personally. But I guess if I was going to, get really technical there, maybe I would. And then this is an equity simulator. So this would kind of simulate how much risk you would take on. And I think what this does is probably runs a test. So if you had a 50% win rate, and that's your risk to reward ratio, which is a 1-to-1 by default there. And so if you ran this 100 times, it would do like 100 test trades at a 50% win rate. And if you had left your risk reward at 1-to-1, then this is kind of what it would look like. A whole bunch of squiggly lines that makes my brain hurt. But I mean, that's kind of cool that you can kind of back test there to just kind of run simulated trades and just change your risk to reward ratio and just kind of see how it works out mathematically. So that's kind of cool too. Personally, I don't like to overcomplicate things. I found that the best strategy is just keep everything simple. And that's when everything changed for me, is just simplifying everything and not getting so caught up in fundamentals and indicators and magic bullets and all the other horse crap that people focus on. And then here we can look at our time zones. And there's actually a utility within Metatrader that is really nice for time zones, where you can see your own time zone along with the server time zone. So that's probably something I would use, but it's kind of nice that this is right here, so you can kind of get a quick glance from your back end when the server time zone changes over to the next day versus your time zone. So that's kind of cool. So let's move on to another one. Maybe prop firms aren't your thing. So another really cool broker is Hankotrade. And Hankotrade is it's considered an unregulated broker. It's not based in the United States. But if you want to be able to do cool things like trade with higher leverage and be able to hedge as well. Those are things that you can't really do on U.S. brokers because they're kind of restricted. So there's a lot of privileges that you can take advantage of that are not available to U.S. residents, whereas the rest of the world can do it. So in a way, it kind of sucks being a U.S. resident when you want to do cool stuff like this, unless you're willing to go unregulated. And so, in my opinion, unregulated means that if you put like a gazillion dollars in here and then the trading company went belly up, you would be out all that money and there's nothing you could do about it. Yeah, that could be a real downer. So you never want to put your rent money in there or anything like that. Only stuff that's disposable. And, I would say the way I would do it personally is put something like $1,000 in there if you know what you're doing and you're willing to lose it. And anyways, maybe if you double that to 2, then take out your original 1, put it back in the bank. Now you got your original investment back, and then try to double it again. And if you do, maybe bring it up to 3,000 and then take out another 1,000. Maybe bring it up to 5,000, take out 2,500, bring it up to 10,000, take out 5. And so if you keep paying yourself, that's really important, because then not only do you get your original investment back, but then you can keep paying yourself. And then if at some point you blow the whole account and you lose everything in the account, you still got your original investment plus whatever profit you made. So, and then you would just simply rinse and repeat. And that way you never should really go below where you started. And again, I'm talking about experienced traders here. If you're a beginner and you use real money, you're probably going to lose it. It's almost a certainty. That's why I always say, stay in demo. Wait until you're really, really consistent. And that can take a long time, really. It could take a couple years to kind of figure out what you're doing. So that part I can't stress enough. Anyways, onward and upward. So this is Hankotrade, and this is where you use all your own money here. And here you got a choice between Metatrader 4, Metatrader 5, and they also have something called ACT, which I think is based on Metatrader. I don't like it as much as Metatrader because when I use it, it doesn't look like you can really set your take profit and so forth by dragging your mouse. And so to me, it's a little bit more restricting. And I was going to the web-based version because they have a web-based version of ACT, but apparently my credentials aren't working in that. But this is what the desktop version looks like here, and it's kind of pretty. It actually looks nice, but it's not really as flexible. I don't know if it's just because it's the Windows version on Wine, if there's just something wrong that way, or if it's the way it's designed, but I can't, the chart trading doesn't seem to be as flexible for me. And then down where your P&L is showing down there, if you're hedging, you can't see your totals at a glance either. But if I was just to jump in here, for example, here I have a trade going on here, and you can already see it's in the red. Oh no. But anyway, if everything's showing down here, but if I had multiples going here, it wouldn't show me a total of all the orders of my profits and losses there, which you can see in the standard MetaTrader. So I feel like I'm kind of, even though it's pretty, it's not quite as feature rich for me, and I can't, if I drag on this line and I click my mouse and I pull downwards, I should be able to set a take profit target and drag something out of there, but I can't do that in ACT. So that's the only downside. That's why I just prefer good old MetaTrader. And I just downloaded it, and I just running the installer here, and this is running in Wine. And so it's really easy to install. And again, this is the demo, so I'm not risking real money here on this. And so if I hit finish, then here we are. The MetaTrader page opened up there, and here we would select our server. So our company would be Hankotrade. So I would hit that, hit next. And here's where we'd put in our login credentials here. So all I'd have to do is go back here. And by the way, I would recommend creating a Metatrader 5 account too, so you can get into the marketplace, which I'll do later. But here we got a bunch of demo accounts I created over time. And so that's a lot of fun. So I'll need to create another one here because I haven't done this in a little bit. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to click Add Demo Account. And by default, the MetaTrader 4 is selected. So you want to be sure that you go to 5 right here. So select that tab. Here I'm going to go with ECN. In my opinion, that's the best account. Or ECN Plus, you need a $1,000 minimum for ECN Plus. For leverage, I like 100x, but you can go as high as 500. But I think 100 is good. And by default, you have 1,000 in there, but you could make that 100,000 if you want. I like 1,000 because it's just kind of realistic. I just kind of like to challenge myself with a small amount. And now we have our credentials. So this is what goes into Metatrader. So I'm going to copy our trading ID, and that goes in under login. And I wasn't sure if I hit that copy right. And then just paste it in here. And then our password is right here, auto-generated. This is also emailed to your email address. So that way you have a reference. Otherwise, I would put it in a text file and keep it handy in case you needed it sometime in the future. And I'm going to hit finish, but it will save your credentials, so you don't have to do that anymore after you get in. And so here we go. We are in. So this is what it looks like by default, and you get 4 of these charts here, and I'm just going to close them all except one, and then I'm just going to enlarge that. And so here by default, we have the Euro USD pair. And what we're seeing here right off the bat are Forex currencies, but if you want to add something else in here, like the US 30, which I like, I think it's just U30. Let me just back up here. Let's go U30. There we go. Now we can see it there. So that's the US 30, and that's one of my favorites. And I think you can do the NASDAQ too. I think that might be the U100. No, I think it would just, let's type in NAS, N-A-S, and there we go. So we can put in the NASDAQ as well for the 100. And then gold, let's do XAU here and do gold US. So gold's another one that I think is cool. US oil is another good one that I like. But let's go into US 30 here. And here's the default. So this is what you normally see by default when you go into Metatrader 5. And so to me, not the prettiest thing. And here we got our space. So I like selecting that icon. And there's our tiny little arrow. If we grab that and get a hold of it, we can slide it over and it goes about halfway. That gives me lots of breathing room. And that's just a psychological thing. And then this is our icon that brings it all the way to the end. So if you're lost, you can click that. So I right-clicked. Let's go on properties here. And here's where you can set your colors. By default, it's just green on black, but you can also do yellow on black for a preset, which is nice. And then you have white on black, or black on white. And then you have color on white. And that's quite nice, actually, if you like a white background. What I like to do is I like to customize it, though, because to me, the grid is kind of overwhelming. And usually I don't even use the grid, but if I were going to use the grid, I would just go in here and probably darken it up. Like I would probably click the black and then go down to custom here and then just lighten up the black slightly. And then you can see in my demo window here that gives it a more mellow background there, so the grid's not so pronounced. So that's kind of nice. But I like turning it off actually altogether. And I can do that in the show settings. But these are our candle colors. So up here we have bar up and down, which is our outline. And then our bull candle and bear candle is our fill color. So white is currently the bear candle, but I'd like to make that a different color. Let's go down here and maybe this rose color here, rose pink, misty rose it's called. So that kind of looks nice. And then we'll change the outline and maybe make that pink color, just a slightly different color. And that kind of looks better to me, not like a in-your-face red bear candle, but more of a mellow, less stressful. And then let's do like, say, a deep sky blue for our outline there. And I think I'll just keep that hollow as well. So the body color is black to match the background. And so all the other things look good. I'm just going to click OK there. And I'm liking the colors, so it's kind of coming together now a little bit. Still, I'm going to go in the properties here, and I'm going to go to show. And I'd like to show the open, high, low, and close information in the chart. That's this right here. So I'm going to turn that on. And then I'm going to uncheck show grid because I just kind of like a clean background there. And then I'm going to turn off the volume too because I don't really pay much attention to the volume. In fact, I don't use any of that stuff. And then here we got our scale fit. So if I want to be more flexible with the chart, I'm going to just flatten this out by grabbing the margin here and pulling down. And then we'll go back in here, select the scale fix checkbox, and then that'll make it much nicer for navigating. Now if I expand it again and just slide up here and make this bigger again, now I can move my chart around just like I was on TradingView or something. So it makes it a lot more civilized, and to me that's better. And here again we can go to bar charts, standard candles, or a line chart. So that's kind of cool. Sometimes I like being in the line chart, but here's our candles and you can see that everything's working just fine. And then up here I got my drawing tools, but you'll notice that some things are missing from what we had before, like the time frames. If I go in here to under toolbars, I can check time frames, and now they appear right here. So now I can see my 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, and so forth. By default, it was in the 1 hour. And then here I can click this icon again to automatically get to the end. But then I want to click it again so it doesn't stay at the end. Otherwise, when I try to slide it over, see, it keeps fighting me. So if I want to be able to move back in time a bit, I want to uncheck that icon again to toggle it off. So that's a pretty comfortable size, but you can expand it and contract it right here by dragging the bottom scale there. And that's pretty good size there, I think. And so each one of these candles donates 5 minutes of time. And as you can see, it's kind of dropping here. And we have our drawing tools, but we're missing the triangle. I like the triangle, so I'm going to click this little arrow. And actually, I need to right click just near the end, just over this toolbar here, and you'll see a customize option. If I hit customize, you can see all these different items that are available. And I'm going to scroll down here and look for the rectangle, and there it is. So I'm going to click that, select insert, and now we have the rectangle in our toolbar. Nice. So there we go. I'm going to select that and just kind of map out a little rectangle zone of resistance. Actually, I'm going to put it in this this little gap here. We got this value gap, and by default this rectangle is clear with just an outline. I kind of like it filled in, and I'm going to make it part of the background. That way the candles go over it, and I'm going to change the color to dark red. And then let's go into, it's under parameters, and I want to check that fill checkbox here. So when I check that, that'll fill our candle, and now we have red, and that is a bearish gap there, which indicates that when your price moves into that little area, it should drop. So that's kind of nice. I'm just going to right click here and just click sell, and this will turn on our one-click trading by checking that box, and I'm good with that because I prefer one click. That means that you don't have to wait for a confirmation. So now if I hit sell after right clicking, now when it comes up and hits that area, hits my line, and I can move it up and down. When it hits that line, then it'll activate it. But right now I'm not currently in a trade. I'm just waiting for it to hit that area because this is a stop limit, or a sell. This is a sell limit. So eventually when it gets up there, it should nail it, but I think it's going to drop, so it's probably not even going to go up there just for the sake of saving time. I'm just going to drag it down really close to the level where it's at, just to kind of save time. Normally I would wait for it to kind of curl back up into that area again. And I'm going to slide over a little bit because I'm kind of in the way. So I'm going to move up maybe like right in here. And if you look below me, you can see your profit target, and just below me you can see where it says placed. That means that the order's been placed and I'm not actually in there yet, but you can see my information in the bottom side of the window there, and we have the trade tab clicked. And so now if I want to actually get in, you also have a trailing stop here, which is kind of cool, and this is just about to get in, so I'm just going to kind of force it in just so we can do our example demo trade just for fun. Okay, and now I'm going to right click here, go back into my properties, and I just want to go under the show area here, and I want to show the time separators there for a period. I kind of like have those showing. And right here, this is our trade buttons here. So if you click that, then these appear, and that's kind of nice. So I just clicked sell right there. So I'm doing another short right here. So I'm shorting right now. So now I have two trades where I'm shorting. And so I'm showing $1.50 profit on here and about 50 cents minus or break even on the other. So I just kind of opened another position because I think it might just keep going down, at least for a little bit. But I think it's going to actually curl back up and go back into the red area there. And I just dragged a take profit. I grabbed my green line and I pulled down with my mouse by holding down the left click button. And then that gave me a take profit. This is our size right here, and so I traded a real small position size. That's why you're only seeing like $2.50 and all that, and I think my total take profit there is maybe $3. So it's kind of small, and we're getting there towards it. However, if you want to trade bigger, we can just increase our size. I'm going to drag my take profit from my other trade as well. So now I have 2 profit targets, and these are just small little scalps here that I'm doing just to save time here. And whoops, I clicked over to the other one. So as that's moving down, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to save my template because I kind of like this color scheme. So I want to save this to other charts. So I'm going to just rename this. I'll just call it the colors, deep sky blue dash rose, I think is what it was, misty rose probably. So I'm going to hit save, and it looks like it's all about ready to hit my first target. So if I go to this other chart and I right click, select templates, load template, I can select my deep sky blue that I just made, and now it'll change this chart. Cool. So there we go. This is actually the same asset here, except it's on the hourly. But if I were going to have I could have something different here, like the pound dollar pair or the euro or something. But let me just draw out an hourly here. So this is kind of where I would expect it to go within a few hours, probably somewhere down in this area. So if I wanted to wait longer, I could actually push my profit target down in there and anticipate that it might hit that area eventually. And then this would be my upper area of resistance on the hourly level here. So these are going to denote a much wider range, and so your profits and or losses will vary. When you go on a bigger time frame, they'll tend to get bigger. And so here we have our 15-minute here, and on the 15-minute you can see that my targets are pretty much right in this level of support on a 15-minute. So they're pretty much on par with where I would be relatively comfortable with. This would be a good support zone here. And so we're already in here, and it's likely to hit that pretty soon. It could pull back, but I think it's likely to get that soon. And then here we can use our text button and just kind of make something in text. And I could just call this like 15 minutes. And that shows that it's a 15-minute zone that I just mapped out here. And so I can really do that with all these, except I don't really like the red there. I think I would change that to something like white maybe. That would probably work better. There we go. And then I would just do it with the other one like that. And I can see this is curling up too, so now it's kind of moving away from my whole deal here. So that's a drag. I'm thinking it's going to probably get right back up into this red zone that I got there. If I wanted to, I could just cut it right now and get out while I'm still in break even or profit. But I think eventually it's going to probably pop back down. But really, it's all about managing more than anything. In fact, when you're practicing, it's better to practice losing than it is to practice winning. That's a gold nugget that might not make sense at first. And of course, you can add other things in here too. So like if I wanted to add an indicator, and I don't use indicators typically, I don't really need them. I think they're more distracting. But you got all these indicators in here, Bollinger Bands and moving averages, Ikimochu Cloud. And I've played with all these over the years. Well, not all of them, but many of them. So I know what a lot of these do. The MACD is pretty good, stochastic oscillator. But again, personally, I just don't use all this stuff. I don't like to clutter my chart up with what I consider a bunch of unnecessary distractions. But let's just say you wanted to use like say a moving average. We could take this adaptive moving average and right click and then select add to chart. And then here we got our parameters, and by default it's 9. I would probably change that to 21 for a 5-minute chart. And then I would color my line maybe a goldenrod color or a gold. And then here we have other options, but I think that's good right there. And so then here you can see a moving average, and 21 works actually quite well with this chart on the 5-minute. And you can see we're below the moving average right now. I anticipate that's probably going to come up and hit that, which is right about where my red zone is. But I'm hoping it'll take out my profit targets first. And right now we're in profit by about $3.30. And then here we got, in our drawing tools, a Fibonacci tool. And that's another thing that I don't mind using. I think the Fibonacci is really handy. And you can go from the bottom to the top here. And the top we have 0, and then down around our profit target is 100. So that's pretty much right on target. And I anticipate it's going to hit that 100 there eventually. And so here, by default, it looks like the fib is in a kind of a yellow color, which isn't bad. But if that's too bold for you, you can go in here, just go over the dot there, right click, and then select properties. And then our red color is actually the style. But if we want to change the color of the fib itself, here's where we can add and take away levels if you want, which is nice. Typically, I like the 50%, but then under parameters, I like to check the right box there so it moves off to the right. And so that way, as the chart moves, it doesn't move away from the Fibonacci there. So that's kind of nice to stretch out. And I forgot to change the color, so I'm right clicking over that dot again. Gonna go to levels and just change this yellow and kind of back it off a bit. Maybe make it that a gold or a golden rod maybe, like right there. So I'll select that and hit OK. And that kind of mellows out our lines a bit, kind of like that. And now you can see it's moving way up So it's moving against me and I'm minus $4.70. What I would normally do here in this situation is I would probably put another sell position right up in this red area, probably towards the top of that or the middle of that red area that I have drawn out, because I anticipate it to drop back down when it hits about the center of that red area. So I would probably add something in there personally. Just, you could make it worse. So just for fun, let's go up here, and I did a 0.1 lot size on here instead of a 0.01. So that's going to make it way bigger. So now if I drag this little take profit down and stick it there, you can see in the tooltip that it's showing $56. Wow, so that's huge. That's 10 times bigger than the other sizes that we were doing. So that means your profit's going to be a lot bigger. And typically I would do like a 0.1 if I had $1,000 myself, which is riskier because when it goes into drawdown, you're going to lose. You're going to be down more too. So that's where you can get a little nervous if you don't have a lot to work with and you're not really sure what you're doing. But I think it's actually going to go up a little bit more into this area, the red area. But now you can see our total. And so our total is minus 15 right now, give or take. And as it drops, we should be averaging up a lot higher. But I think it's going to come up a little more. Normally I wouldn't have got in right there, but I just kind of want to save a little time. But I would have got in a little bit higher, possibly even up into here. But I don't think it's going to go quite that high, but it'll probably come close. So again, I could do a buy stop if it goes above here. So this is where I would kind of hedge. So if it got outside this red zone here, that's what I would consider invalid. So I would hedge here, and this would control my loss on my other trades. And then I could just kind of manage it from there. But I'm going to take that out for now because I don't think I'm going to need it. Okay, now it got up in the zone where I actually would have added instead of where I did it before. So I'm just going to put that in there just for fun and stick another one in there. And as you can see, it's already in profit because it's dropping right where I was anticipating it to drop. So that is the sweet spot in my opinion. And we'll just let that keep going. It may even go all the way up to the hourly red zone there, which wouldn't surprise me too much, or come close. I don't know if it'll actually touch it, but while it's doing that, let's see another cool thing. The markets. I like the marketplace. That's another thing that's cool on here. And there's a lot of free utilities and add-ons that you can use in this. So if I come over here and I scroll down a little bit, here we got this market setting here, and this shows us all kinds of cool stuff that's available. And I like to select the free option here because this will show you filter everything by free stuff. And I like to put a clock in here that shows the local time, and there's a really cool little utility for that. So if I come over here and I type clock in my search, then I don't see clock. Oh, okay, I gotta select free again, no wonder. And I think it's a utility too, so I selected the utility tab, but it made my clock disappear, so let me type that again. And then select from the drop down free right here. So I'm gonna go with free, and there we go. So cool, here we have different clocks we can look at, and some of these are really nice. But this one here, this LT clock, I think this is kind of cool. So I'm gonna look at that, and here's a screenshot of it. So it kind of looks like that there. So yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. So let's hit download, and this will automatically download it to our market area over here on the side. So now if I scroll down, I'll just kind of close these other things here on our indicators. Under market, now we have LT clock. So if I go back to my chart and then I right click on that, then I can select attach to chart. And then here it's got our little settings here. This is our color and so forth. So I wonder if I can change that color. No, you can't. So I guess you got to stick with red, and I can live with that, I guess. So if I hit OK, then you should see the clock, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, I think it's in the upper left-hand corner. That's where it was showing it in the screenshot. So it's probably sitting right behind my trade buttons. So I can fix that. I'm opening my object list here after right-clicking. Actually, indicator list is where I want to be. Going to select that and hit properties, and then I'm going to move that. So I think there's probably somewhere in one of these settings where you can slide that over. Must be under inputs. So if I go in here and just kind of take a look, I think it might be, okay, we have horizontal and vertical distance. So I think I got to change the horizontal distance. So let me just do that. So if we go to horizontal, it's 16. So I'm thinking that's like 16 pixels. So I'm going to double click that, and let's try maybe changing it to something like 500. See what that does. So we'll hit OK. Boom, there it is. Nice. All right, so that slid it over. Cool. So I like that. Now I can see my local time, than the broker time. And so that really helps when you're trading, especially if you have things going on. And when I double click the color there, it doesn't do anything. So I guess you can't change the color, but that's all right. I think red's fine. So I'm going to hit OK here and then close. So now we got our cool clock, because the server time on Hankotrade is different than my local time. So I kind of like seeing the difference there. It kind of helps me figure out where we're at, especially if you got an event coming up, say at 8 o'clock or something, 8:30. So you can see that's moving up there in the zone. And I would actually be inclined to do another sell right there, because I am anticipating it's going to drop probably right about where that wick is. I think it's going to go up to about halfway up that wick. So I'm going to do a little less than halfway, just kind of keep it conservative. But I think that'll get me in, and then it should drop, and then I should start making some cash. And then if it actually moved way up here, I would do a buy right there to hedge, because it would probably keep going. Actually, I might tweak it a little more. Most people would put a stop loss there, but I kind of do the opposite. I put a hedge in the opposite direction, because typically if it's going to go that high, it's probably going to keep going. So I might as well rake some profits out of it and offset the losses that it's in right now, because we're temporarily in drawdown. And it looks like it's about to hit my new target there, and that should get me into another trade to the short side. So then I'll have another open position. So I hit it and went over it. So now I'm in again. Now I'm really drawing down. Most people would get scared right now, but I think it's going to reverse right here. And it should about halfway on this wick, and we are at the halfway point. So I'm thinking it's going to start dropping now. And if it does, I am a genius. If it doesn't, I am bald. And so 3, 2, oh, there we go. Yep, 3, 2, 1. So it's going down now, and it should go more aggressively here, I think, to the downside. And that's the kind of aggressive I like. So we'll see how that's going. And now you can see that my total is minus 67 instead of minus a gazillion. And we have a little bit in the positive there on our most recent entry. Looks like about $2. So that's cool. I think that's one of my original entries. And there's a nice healthy drop. So that's what I'm liking, because I'm shorting, so I'm making money as it goes down. And now I'm only down about $16, so that's good. And so I'm pausing every once in a while just to skip ahead, but I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out. We've gotten into our next 5-minute zone here, so I'm thinking that's probably going to go up a little bit, probably drop initially, then kind of go up. This is kind of our transition candle here. For the sake of saving time, we're up about $15, $16. So I think I'm just going to kind of close these out here so we can move on. But you kind of get the message. We'll just kind of close these guys here one at a time and take the green and go home. And then over here we got our history, and you can see I made about $10. So if we look at our history, I'm going to click on this tab, then we can see what we have here. And $13.30 was our total profit, but then there was like $3 in commissions. So not too shabby. And as you can see, it's dropping. So I think eventually it would have nailed my targets, but it's really time to move on. So back on my desktop here, here's another one I really like. This is Thinkorswim, and this is TDAmeritrade's app here. And this works just beautifully in Linux. I think it's Java-based. And so if we go in here, then you can see we have a pretty sophisticated environment. This is really cool. And I guess I can even scooch down a bit here now that I'm in a new environment. And so here's our chart here. And this is a live mode here. You also have a demo mode that you can play on this as well. And I'm just kind of adjusting my chart here, rolling my mouse wheel, and then hitting over here to scale it. And right now we're in Forex, but you got futures, stocks. Many people trade stocks in here. Futures is really good in TDAmeritrade too. This is the 5-minute time frame, but you can set your different time frames here. Then we have something called OnDemand, which is awesome. On demand, you can go back in time here, and then you can set it to a date. Like right now, it's October 27th, 22. So way back. Let's move forward a little bit to a closer date, like say March 23rd. So we could go there and just hit go, and it'll load the data from that time period, and we can practice to our heart's content, even if it's a Saturday or Sunday, anytime you want. So this is really a wonderful feature. It's one of my favorite features. And let's change our time to 8, maybe 8:20 in the morning. And then we got to do another colon and put in the seconds as well. That's important to have the seconds in there, otherwise it won't work. Then let's hit auto zoom. That way we can find our candles. And so here we are at 8:20 in the morning, I think it was, and just got to kind of scale it here. And so as you can see, now we've gone back in time, and this on demand is just a wonderful feature. So we could do like a sell right here because it's moving right up to that point where it's about to reverse. And it looks like I'm already at around 168 profit there from probably a previous session. So I think that's just about to drop. So I guess I would just kind of do a sell right there. Here you can see your position, and we are short now in a sell position. You can't really see it on the chart itself, but we're in the trade now. And if I want to add more buttons, I can do that right here. I just clicked on that little gear indicator for settings. And then here we have our tabs, so we can open different features or close them just by clicking on these tabs, which is nice. This is our active trader that's activated here that gives us all these cool things. And then our dashboard, we can open that up if we want, unclick it. Level 2 if you're trading stocks, that's pretty nice. And so TDAmeritrade really has a wonderful app here. It's pretty cool, and it just seems to get better all the time. So now you can see it's dropping, so I am in profit already, and so it's kind of acting just like I thought it was gonna. And as you can see, the chart and everything is just really gorgeous. And I could go down here and do another sell right here. And if I did a sell stop, then that's marked right here so I can see what it's doing. So that sell stop would actually add another trade there. But if I did a sell up here, that would be a stop loss. So if it went up to that point, then I would lose. Now, if I wanted to take profit down here, then all I would have to do is select put a buy stop there instead. Another big favorite of mine is Motivewave. Motivewave is a really great app here. This is something I really like, especially for practicing. And this is available in a paid version and a community version, which is free. So here we have a Linux download here. So it is made for Linux as well. But I'm in Arch, so I'm going to just use Yay. But let's see if it's in Pac-Man just real quick. Fun. I don't think it is, but yeah, not in the repos, so I would just use Yay. The download link goes to a Debian file, a DEB, which is great for Ubuntu and Debian-based distros, but here we go. We got 66.15, and it's already installed, so I don't need to download it, but that's a route you can go if you're in Arch there. So I'm just going to launch this, and then just select my space here, and hit continue. And then we'll do our login, and then this will open up, and this is really a great app. In fact, I like practicing in here even better than in the Thinkorswim, just because it just feels light. But yeah, it's kind of a toss-up. Here I have some things open already. Had the Aussie USD pair, and here's the pound USD. Of course, in Thinkorswim, you got a more variety of securities to trade with, I guess. And here we're on the pound, and I'm just going to scooch up here a little bit, so I'm kind of out of the way of the stuff below me. There we go. And so here you can see I just got in here, and so hopefully I got in a good spot, but I'm anticipating it to bounce up here. And this is really, like I said, really nice software. I'm going to just put in maybe a sell right there. So that should, I'm anticipating it to go there, and I think it will, maybe. And if it does, then yeah, I can take profit right there, and that ought to close the trade. So I just got in here, and now I'm put a sell stop up here, and then that should close my trade if it hits that spot. And so it's really easy to use Motivewave. It's super feature rich, and I'm only on the community version, like I was saying before, I think. So the community version gives you tons of features. And as you can see, my status and profit and loss status is right down below me. And so I'm anticipating it's going to go up there. And this is actually a demo mode here. And you don't have to have an account with any exchange to use this, because this will actually use free data that's pulled from another source, which I don't remember which. But over here on the left, I'm pulling out some components here that are nice. This is a price level component, so you can move it anywhere on the chart and know what the current price level is at any given point, which is nice. But there's just tons of components to choose from. So here I can go and find all kinds of things, lines and trend lines and P&L targets to kind of calculate where you want to put your profit, take profit, and stop loss. Here's a resistance area, so I could put that up at the top and put it at a supply zone here and just kind of slide that across, and that kind of gives me a visual representation. And I can do the same thing with a support area. I can come down here and maybe I feel like that it might bounce when it hits this area again. So that kind of gives me a nice little reference. And then we got a little bit of an area up above there halfway between, which it's likely to bounce on before it meanders its way up to the red area, theoretically. So I could actually put another support area in here if I was just kind of trying to maybe plan for a quick scalp or something. I would actually anticipate it to go in here, and that's kind of why I put my take profit right there, because I'm thinking it ought to probably touch that zone or at least come close to it. And so I think it's likely to get in there. It may not get in there right away. It could take forever, but I think it will eventually pop that take profit there in that zone. So this is really a wonderful feature. This is something I really like. Let's go down here into the commentary, and I can kind of draw with this too. So like I can take my arrow here, and I'm thinking it's going to go up like this, and then let's take another arrow. And these are not really things that I do when I'm actually in here, but this is kind of a sake of illustration. But I'm thinking it might kind of bounce right there, go down, and then maybe go back up and possibly bust on through and eventually reach that area. Maybe not just that straightforward, but I think it probably will kind of work its way up to that point, I'm thinking. But I'm not going to get too heavy into this. So let's just get right down here into one of my favorite features, because there's tons of features in here, and I could make a whole video on this all by itself just for this, which I could if there's enough interest. But anyway, the main reason I just wanted to open this up was so I could kind of show you the replay mode. So like in Thinkorswim with the OnDemand, this also has a replay mode, and you can use that calendar that I just had open to set your day, and then your time is down there, and here's our settings. And so here you could like check the generate ticks box if you want it to be a little bit more like watching tick by tick your candle go up and down in form and everything. But when I'm testing stuff, I actually like it better with that unchecked, because it just kind of gives me my results faster. Then we press that power button, and then it loads it in. So now we're back in time again, and we're back to April 18th at 8:22 a.m. And then if I want to advance, it'll work in any time frame. Like now I'm here on the 5 minute, and I can go in the 5 minute or the 10 minute, 15, 2 minute, 1 minute, wherever, and it's all gonna work. It works everywhere. So I'm gonna go in the margin here, double click, and that gave me an entry. And now if I just step forward, this is a step forward right here, and I can step forward a candle at a time, or in this case 5 minutes at a time, and it went down and it nailed it just like I thought it was gonna. And then right there I'm already in profit. So I would probably just take that if I was scalping here, and then maybe anticipate another entry here to go short. So that's a sell, limit sell, and it went the other way. And it looks like I'm in. Oh, okay, I must still be in my buy. I did something wrong there, I think. So I'm going to do a buy right there. And that was kind of the wrong move, but I ran the play button this time, and I'm just going to let it go through. And that's really messing around. I think it's eventually going to get up to my target there, but that's way longer than I expected. So I'll just pretend I lost that one, because in real life I probably wouldn't have waited around that long. But now it's nighttime according to the time down there, so we're just kind of running through 5 minutes at a time, and we're getting into the Asian session, and we'll be heading into the London Open. And if there's any events, then it might shoot it up there, or it might make it worse. But this is kind of an example of how you can watch things play out. And whoa, there we go. So there was an event there around 2 a.m. Eastern time. So apparently there was an event on the London session. And now it's coming back down. So it looks like I still would have lost. Ouch. So now it's way back down there. I guess right there, I would probably do a buy if I was awake at that time of the night and hedge myself back up. And now it's coming way up, and I'd be pretty much in profit there, and I'd be above break even, and I could probably close both of those. However, on the American exchanges, you can't hedge. So you got to kind of be a little more creative. But right there, I'm just kind of putting in another sell and let it go up. And it hit my target, it looks like. Or not. But the sell that I put in there, I went the wrong way again. So it doesn't look like I'm going the right way very often here in this demo. That's the way it is. But it did finally curl back down, and now I'm a little bit in profit. So in real life, I would probably get out of there right now and call it good. And so you can just keep doing this all day long, anytime, and just keep practicing and trying new things. And that's the beauty of this. This is what I really like, is you can just sit in here and practice to your heart's content. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover there. Like I said, I don't want to go too in depth because this video is getting really long. So I'm just going to come back here, and it looks like this one's kind of moving against me too. But I have a feeling if I waited long enough, you know, this probably would curl back up there. So yes, I'm just going to pause this, I think, and just kind of let it run its course a little bit and see where it goes. And then I'll give you my 2 cents on everything. Okay, and I'm back. I went and got some lunch, and it's been running a while here. So yeah, it's still kind of doing its thing, and I'm on the 1 minute chart now. But anyway, I think it's getting close. It's probably going to nail that in another few minutes or so. So with that, back to my 2 cents. So I think Metatrader 5 is really a wonderful thing to have to use for these different platforms. And I just love the fact that it works so well on Linux. And really, there's lots of options. Like I said, the other two that I just showed you, the Thinkorswim and the Motivewave, are just a couple of apps, but there's other things available for futures trading. And then you have web solutions like Trading, Webull if you're into stocks. Pretty okay for beginners, I think, maybe. You got Forex.com, TradingView, IG. Lots of choices there with web-based as well. Metatrader 5 is something I use myself. I really like it, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a viewer or two out there that is using it as well. And if so, feel free to chime in and let me know. I would be curious. So that was part of the purpose of this video too, was to try to help erase that stigma that you can't do specialized things on Linux that you can do on Windows and Mac, because it's just not entirely true. Whether you're on a proprietary system like Windows or Mac, or you're on Linux using open source stuff, you're still not left out of the crowd. So that was kind of my point of the whole thing. Plus, it's just something different and fun to look at. At least it was for me. So with that, I hope this really long review was helpful. And if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching. And oh, look at that. It looks like it's crossing my line. Until next time, we'll see you then.